Okay, so we're live. Okay, so welcome to today's talk session. My name is Deidre Moss, and I'm the host of Can We Talk. I'm an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. So this is our first session for the year 2023, and so we're happy to be back to kick off these sessions. So for our first session, we're welcoming Ernestia Fraser. Happy to have her come on board today. And so we're gonna start with a brief introduction, but I just want to say that we're starting a series on Bahamian Creatives. And so it's important for us to highlight what our persons in our community is doing. And so welcome to our talk. Thank you for tuning in today. We're excited to bring you meaningful topics of interest. And this platform is dedicated to highlighting Bahamian talent. We know that there are so many talented individuals who do not always get the recognition that they rightfully deserve. And in some way, we at Can We Talk with Deidre Moss is trying to fill in the gap. We want to fill in the gap to address this thing. So there are many gifted Bahamian creators who have ventured into the literary space, and we will be exploring that topic today. So at this time, I will pass the virtual mic to our guest, Ernestia Fraser, so that she can introduce herself.
Good day to all. Yes, so my name is Ernestia Fraser, and I am an educator, an author, and a poet here in the Bahamas. I currently work at the University of the Bahamas in the Writing Center. I've been writing for over 15 years. I've dabbled in the different genres from screenwriting to poetry. Recently completed some fiction works and also got into children's book writing. So writing has been my passion for a very long time, has been my main pursuit, regardless of the challenges faced within the field, but definitely, pursuing this for the long run. So also got my master's in creative writing, screenwriting. So I also have an interest in content development for film and television, and ventured off onto online education. And so recently started teaching creative writing on my platform. One of them is the tutoring station. And that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Ms. Fraser. We're so happy to have you here today. And you've written a few books, so we're going to talk about that today. But before we begin, if you're tuning in from our social media page, you just joined us, like and share this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links on our page, our social media platforms. We need your help to continue these talks. Also, if there's something you think we should be talking about, feel free to let us know. We do want to hear from you. So with that, we get into our talk. So, Ms. Fraser, can we talk Bahamian Creatives?
Definitely. Bahamian Creatives, we're out there in abundance. I believe our talent really can be world renowned, and it is world renowned. We've seen Bahamian Creatives, Sydney Poitier, take the world by storm with acting and so forth. But, there's many creatives that have that world-class talent that just are waiting for an opportunity. So I believe that they are here in abundance. They're sharp, they're precise, they're ready for those opportunities. And so they really definitely need more platforms here in the Bahamas. And when I say that, the platforms and the opportunity and the doors will be great. At the same time, they also need to be valued for what it is they put in, the time, the energy, the effort, and the God-given gift, given to them. So there's a lot of room really to bring more attention to creatives, for that space to be further developed and sort of bridged, with more mainstream Bahamian opportunities and so forth. So I really think it's the time and season for the Bahamian creative. And so with that said, it's only a matter of time before they really start getting to the forefront and really putting what we have to offer on display And I think a lot of our culture is driven by the creative aspect. And it's interesting to see, different aspects of the Bahamas, given that spotlight, let's say even the physicality of the island that we live on and so forth. But it's really the creatives, it's the person's really running the culture in the different fields, the people that needs to be spotlighted and given that attention and that value. And I think once we as a people understand that, this land really, as we stand, is unstoppable in a sense. So I think that's where our product is, that's where our value is, and that's our future.
Thank you. You mentioned some very important points. And first, I just want to say point one, value. It's important for us to value these individuals and what they bring to the table. I think sometimes we take talent for granted. And so that's very important that we mentioned that. And then you also mentioned that it's only a matter of time before, exposure and really come to the forefront. So those are important points that you mentioned. So I want to talk to you about your background and really if you could give any insight into how did you become an author and why?
Well, I think the plan really was for me to get into psychology. That's really what I wanted to do as a young adult. But by the time I got to college, I took an English course and it was an intro to creative writing. And I realized that a lot of things that I enjoyed about psychology, like let's say character study or analysis, those are things we engage with in English and in creative writing and so forth. So I made the switch, and over time, that career path became more definitive. All I understood at the time was that I have a passion for storytelling. And so with the help of mentors and, persons who would read my work and maybe celebrate some of the milestones I had, the path became much clearer. And so by the age of 21, I authored my first book. It was actually a memoir called Carnival of Love. Didn't plan on it at all. Was actually hoping to pen the next great script. I was a fan of Charlie Kaufman and wanted to write a dynamic, I wouldn't say a version of his film, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but I wanted to write something quite original. So that was my goal from an early age. But again, ventured into writing the memoir. And from there, things became quite clear that this is really where I want to dwell in terms of the pursuit of my talents and even the pursuit of happiness. Writing gives me joy, being able to express myself with words. That's something that definitely deserves my energy, and that's how I feel about it. So yeah, so the path became more definitive over time.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to get to a question by Vivian Pitter. She's from Jamaica. Hi Vivian, how are you? So she's saying hello to you and your guest. Thank you, Vivian. And so she's asking, what are some of the cultural attributes of the Bahamas? So I don't know if you want to answer that question as it pertains to our topic today.
Well, in terms of the cultural attributes, we can, if we're going to stick within the parameter of the arts, we can look at music, we can look at dance, we can look at writing, we can look at printmaking, crafts, arts and crafts, and so forth. So, what culture is really how we express ourselves. It's sort of an intellectual collectiveness, it's an emotional collectiveness. And I think even persons living in the Caribbean region, although our nations are unique, there's still something very overlapping and overarching. that we share, and so we see some of those similarities. So yeah, culture is definitely our mode of expression. And so, those are some of the art related aspects or the creative related aspects that we definitely need to venture into more. It's there, it just needs to be celebrated. So I think that's really what I've recognized over the years, and that's what I would hope to see in the Bahamas.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Vivian. Feel free to hit us back in the comments. And so you did write a few books. The most recent, I think the most recent one is Mommy, Daddy, I'm Hungry, right? You
It is.
smile.
It is. I had that in the stable for a while, but that is the
Okay,
most recent release. Yes.
okay. And so I just want to ask you the inspiration. What's the inspiration behind your book? I know you've written a few, but why did you decide to write this book?
Well, Mommy, Daddy, I'm Hungry came to me quite subtly. I had a little niece at the time, and I think she was around 1 years old. And so, she had a growing appetite, and she was the type of toddler who loved junk food, loved candy. And so anytime she would see me, she wanted to know, Auntie, do you have, gum or, chocolates for me? And so seeing that, I just wondered about her palate and, her options and so forth. And there was this one day I noticed that she took some broccoli off a plate and she just ate the head of the broccoli, and she loved it. And so it was interesting to see her, who already had such a um I guess diverse palate for sweets and junk food, to also make a healthy choice. And so that's where Mommy, Daddy, I'm Hungry came from. I wanted to promote more healthy food choices among children, and she definitely was the inspiration for that. So that's how that story came about.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. It's always a good thing to encourage our kids to make healthier choices. So thank you for sharing the inspiration behind that book. And so I just want to ask you your thoughts of Bahamians who have entered the literary space, and even if you want to extend that toward the creative space.
For Bahamians that venture towards the literary space, I think it's great. And I think I can borrow some of what I said about the creatives. I think there's a prolific amount of Bahamians in the literary space, or who's budding in that space. Again, the challenge is the support and the opportunity. I've been to a few vendors within the community, and some of them can say things, or let me be honest. You'll meet a vendor who will tell you, well, Bahamian books don't sell. And so they choose not to take it on. So it's an interesting space to where there's definitely an expression on our part to write and to share our God-given gifts with, our community and with others. But there's really not a lot of public space to sort of share that with. So, but that's fine, because there are online communities. So Bahamians can definitely subscribe to that space, explore, develop, refine, and share their gifts, and bring something great to the table in terms of the literary world. And right now, there are a few prominent Bahamian writers, but we don't hear much about it. So I would say the recognition for Bahamians in that space is not there as much. So that can be improved. But, for the longest time, I thought that, I needed to really be a part of that fight to bring Bahamians on board and make what we do a little bit more tangible and seen within the community. And I kind of redirected my energy. I figured for me right now, what is important is being the best writer I could possibly be. And what that means is just giving my best to that particular craft, and just allowing the opportunities to come naturally from the work that I put out. So I don't really try my hand at putting stuff out there, especially in places where it's not really as welcome. My focus is inward and, creating the best work possible, and then sharing that on my platforms and so forth. So I think the support and the value will come with time. Will come with time. And Bahamians probably need to, at least the writers probably need to unify a little bit more, develop more associations, and make those steps towards at least celebrating each other. And I don't think we need to count on anyone else to celebrate us again. Once we celebrate ourselves and show support for others who are like-minded, I think that's going to shake things up a bit.
Thank you for sharing your insight, or at least your experience. And very interesting to hear that type of commentary from a vendor, um, saying that human books don't sell. Um, it'll be very interesting, and that's why it's so important for us to really explore topics in our community, to really understand why we face some of the challenges that we do. In order for us to really address these issues, we have to first air them out. And so it's very interesting to hear you talk about that. And I think it all comes down to support. You talk about support and opportunity. And it's very interesting to hear you talk about that. Why aren't we supporting each other? And why aren't we creating opportunities for deserving persons? Um, that is a topic, a whole nother topic to explore. But the reality is that it's your experience, you've experienced it, and I've experienced it, and it does exist. But the question is, why? But I want to get to another. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I don't know if I want to climb that mountain. It's
Yeah.
a momentous question. I guess the point is we should, versus the why aren't we? But that's again, for the Bahamian writer, there are, the internet has bridged so many opportunities. So I personally know of a Bahamian writer who actually really doesn't market her work here. And it's not for lack of trying. She just had made a decision early on. There's very little support for the type of work that she does. So she's taken her work on Amazon, and she's an Amazon bestseller. So she has a lot of international support. And so, the barriers aren't there as much as they used to be. So there's still avenues that we can forge and we can create, as long as we feel like we have something to share, then we can do that. So again, create the best work. It just reminds me of the verse that says, your gift will make room for you. I think it's important to focus on developing and refining your gift and allowing that to attract the opportunities, whether it be local or whether it be international. But I would love to see more local support. And I think it goes hand in hand with a number of things. One, the promotion of reading and literacy. And I don't think that's done enough. Even within the schools, there needs to be more emphasis on reading time, library time, etc. So there's a lot of things that can come into play that really helps to develop the trajectory of Bahamian literature.
Again, thank you for mentioning those salient points. And then also you mentioned something important. First and foremost, you said your gift will make room for you. And also, it's important for us. And people often say this, go where you're appreciated. And yes, we would love to find support within our own community. But guess what? Sometimes it doesn't exist. Okay? It's just not there. Mm-hmm. So you just find your market, find your people, go where you're appreciated, and go where people will celebrate. So
for sure,
it is what it is. Okay, it's reality. Question is, it's gonna take some time to unravel why. Why do we have this issue with supporting each other? Mm-hmm. For those who are listening in, we would love to hear from you. Please chime in. I'm going back and forth to the comments. So if you're listening, please share your take on what we're talking about today. So I want to talk about impact. And when you wrote this book, you talk about your niece, you know, she was saying, honey, I want some gum, I want some candy, I want some chocolate. You know, what
Exactly in that voice.
what is what do you think the impact of, or what when you wrote this book, what was your desired impact that this book should have?
When I wrote it, I thought about a single person, and that was my niece. Her name is Hannah. And so the book really was supposed to cheerlead certain habits. If you read the book, it does promote healthy eating, but I was mindful to put other, positive habits in there, like washing, like being sanitary, spending time with family and so forth. So yeah, so the book I really intended to have, I guess, readers or young children think about healthy life choices at an early age. Eating healthy, that's one of them. I think that reading is very, very important, and that, you know, persons should start from very young, when they're infants, meaning someone should be reading to their babies, their children. So it's really a promotion for, living a healthy lifestyle, and being mindful that that's very comprehensive. It's not just eating healthy, or living in a very comfortable place. It's about making, a variety of choices that will promote the best quality of life.
Thank you for sharing those healthy tips and all those great things to support our youngsters. And so sharing stories, why do you think it's important for us to share these stories?
Stories have a special power to retain value, retain lessons, retain memory. Sometimes if you want to pass something down, you can put it in the form of a story, and that can translate. So, I could have written or put this message in a different form. But again, I was more intrigued about how I would be able to reach someone at the elemental level, a young adult or a child, and venture into their world and plant some seeds that could lead to something positive. So I think sharing the right stories are very, very important. And again, stories have that sort of pervasive nature where it can be passed down, it can connect people, it can create discussions and so forth. So I guess that's why, storytelling for me is so magical.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, if you're listening in, we do want to hear from you. Put your comments in, get your comments in. So I want to ask you about your future endeavors, if you care to share is any particular, because I know you wrote a few books, and my
Mm.
research is looking at some of the work that you did. I saw you wrote about Carnival Love and just the different books that you've written. So is there anything you'd like to share about your future endeavors?
Sure. And I used the word stable earlier because I have a few projects that I've already worked on that I'm hoping to release soon. One is a middle grade novel called The Island of Shelby Mott, and it's just a throwback to what island life could have been like in the 90s, early 90s. And I grew up around that time. I was a bit of a tomboy, and I climbed trees, and played parking and stuff like that. So it's just homage to a sort of innocence, but also daringness of that particular time, when you're young, you're a teenager, etc. But I am currently working on another children's book called Read With Me. So I think I'm most excited about that because I can't say that I was as encouraged to read from an early age, but I found books somehow, and I always needed a book on my desk or on my shelf. And so I want to use this book to promote, and champion reading at a young age. So that's one of the main projects that I'm working on right now.
Thank you for sharing that. And so I also want to get to another question that pertains to our fast talk segment. Um, so I want to ask about, you have about 60 seconds. Sorry, we're entering our fast talk segment. This is a segment where we give our guests 60 seconds to get through each of these questions. And I want to go to the first one. What is the most valuable message that you think you've conveyed in your book?
Choosing healthy habits, because a habit is a choice. So you can choose an unhealthy habit or a healthy habit. And habits really are the building blocks for the quality of your life.
And name your greatest triumph during the process of writing your book.
Can you repeat that? The internet went out. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Your greatest triumph during the process of writing your book.
The greatest triumph. The greatest triumph was finishing the story. There was a lot of negotiation for me on how do I adapt my words to sort of fit the child construction. So, I had certain questions about, well, do I rhyme? What types of words do I use? So it's finishing the script for me. Once I can finish this story, I can imagine everything else.
Your greatest challenge.
Greatest challenge was working with my graphic artist. Hopefully he's not listening in. But we had a lot of back and forth about, translating my vision into an image and so forth. So yes, but I do appreciate him. I'm going to put that out there in case he's watching.
I need to put your book on the screen. Let's see if I can share my screen. Or do you have a book? Do you have a book on these? But I'll share my screen. I'll try to pull
Okay.
it up.
Okay.
What advice would you give to any upcoming author who might be interested in putting a book out there?
The best advice you can give a writer is to tell them to write and to stop making excuses to not write. Carve out the time, even if it's 10 minutes a day, go ahead and put something down.
Final question. What can we do to encourage? I'm sorry, my final question. What can we do to encourage more Bahamians to enter that literary space? Sorry.
I think, promoting more reading. In fact, the more you read, the more comfortable you feel writing, because you definitely are encountering models of how to write, et cetera, et cetera. So I think writing and reading go hand in hand for me. So let's promote more reading and even literacy and so forth. And I think, again, we'll start to develop and strengthen in that particular area.
Thank you so much for participating in our fast talk segment. So while you were speaking, I was just trying to pull up your book. Now, I tried. I think this image, I hope this image isn't too small, but I just want to share the screen for a minute just so that we could get this book on the screen. And it's a little bit too small. I don't know if I can enlarge this, but
Okay.
this is your book, Mommy, Daddy, I'm Hungry by Ernestia Fraser. Yeah. And so congratulations to you for getting this book out there.
Thank you so much.
Is there any additional comments you'd like to add before we're coming to the end of our session? So I just want to touch bases with you to see there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, I just want to say thank you for inviting me onto your platform and into your space so that we can talk about creatives and writers in this regard. So I do appreciate that, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I'm just going back to the comments to see if there's anything else in there. But I want to thank you as well for taking the time out to join us today and to share a little bit about yourself and share also about the experience of Bahamian creatives, Bahamian authors. And we know that we certainly have issues that we do have to overcome as it pertains to providing opportunities for the human creators, the human authors, supporting persons who will put themselves forward. And again, we spoke about the utilizing other platforms. We have online communities and different communities out there that we can extend ourselves to. So if you find that you're not finding success in one market, there's always other avenues that you can take to um, market yourself. And so those are important points that you mentioned. And so I just want to thank you for sharing with us today. We value you. And it's so important for us to highlight individuals like yourself. And so this is what my platform is all about. So I just want to say that we value. I value the work that you do, and your work helps contribute to our community and also adds to the building block of our society. And so I just want to thank you for your work. Um, you love to write, Miss Writer. I just want to thank you for the work that you
Well, you're welcome, and thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we have come to the end of our session, and I want to thank our viewers for listening in. Please feel free to comment under this video. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you want us to talk about. We want to hear from you. And so this brings us to the end of our session. I would like to thank our guest, Ernestia Fraser, for sharing her insight with us today. And we want to remind you, if you want to advertise with us, let us know. You can also reach out to us through our page. Our contacts are there. The telephone contact is there. The email contact is there. We want to grow, so grow with us. So to those watching via social media, thank you again for listening in. Like our page for future notifications. Share. As you get notifications for upcoming talks, comment under our videos, let us know your thoughts, and subscribe to our other social media platforms. So with that, we come to an end of the session. Remember, let's be thoughtful. Let's think thoughtfully. Thank you so much. Have a good day.